Hey there, seekers of spiritual, tangible results.
Welcome to the No Nonsense Zone, where common sense meets the spiritual. I'm Jason Parks.
I'm Emma Romano, your unapologetically real spiritual guides.
We don't sugarcoat, we don't dance around the woo-woo, we just deliver the raw, kick-ass truth.
Join us each episode as we dive deep into the mystical, cut through the bullshit, and show you how to manifest the tangible results you've been craving for.
No fluff, no filters, just two mentors on a mission to elevate your mind, body and soul.
Get ready to transform your life like never before. This is Soul Aligned Results, where spirituality meets the real world.
Hello everyone, welcome to Soul Aligned Results. I'm energetic therapy specialist and spiritual mentor Jason Parks, and with me, as always, is the amazing
Emma Romano.
We swapped it around, so it's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. And Emma Romano is internationally renowned trauma expert and relationship expert.
Thank you.
So it's a pleasure, Emma.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah. It's always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure. Jason, what are we talking about today?
So today we're going to have a look at unlocking spiritual and emotional liberation.
That's a juicy one.
So before we get into it, though, let's do the things, right? So first of all, if you like what you're hearing on the podcast, please like and subscribe. You know the drill. Everybody's played the game before now. But also, if you want to find out more about what we do, because we do mentoring, we do retreats, we do masterclasses, we have our website, soulalignedresults.com. And if you want to know, and I know that you will after what we talk about today, if you want to find out more detail about what Emma does, have a look at emmaromano.com.au, or for me, thelifeprinciple.com.au. So with that out of the way, let's get into it.
Yay, this is going to be amazing. Buckle up, everybody. Buckle up. All right, Jason, go for it.
All righty. So what we wanted to talk about today, with the idea of unlocking spiritual and emotional liberation, we want to talk about the process. Is that it's very important. People love to throw the idea around about being liberated, being free, and what that means. But it's an actual process. Mm-hmm. There's things that have to be done, and they have to be done in a certain way. Otherwise, you're just going to chase your tail for years. So in the beginning, one of the things you have to learn, first of all, is you have to learn how to meditate. Now, there's two ways to learn how to meditate. Most of it is based on the spirit, using the mind, controlling the mind in order to get in contact with the spirit. This is undeniably the slowest and most difficult way to do it. Mm-hmm. Because what it does is, it's like, if you imagine, this is where we get concepts like monkey mind and all this sort of thing, is because your mind is like a toddler having a tantrum in a supermarket. And what you're doing in meditation is you're standing next to that toddler saying, you need to regulate yourself. You need to regulate yourself.
Yeah, you're sitting there going, calm down.
That's right. And
which makes that toddler go even a little bit more nuts.
Oh, absolutely. And then eventually what happens is they exhaust themselves, they cry themselves out, and then they stop. And then you go, okay, wait, great. I'm great at meditation. I got my mind to calm down. Mm. So the other way to do it is through a soul aligned work. And if you do it through the soul, what you do is that you very deliberately drop into the divine. So instead of spending 20 years to quieten your mind so that you can then reach the divine, you just start with the divine, and then what it does is put its influence over the mind. So the mind becomes instantly still, and everything that's not important to you drops away. And in that, it can take seconds to be able to connect into the divine, not decades. And both of them have their benefits, because if you spend 20 years of daily meditation, you develop other aspects like certain kinds of emotional discipline and mental discipline and so forth. But it really is a very slow and very difficult way in which to do it, which is part of the reason why people nowadays, I believe, people are so invested in chasing stuff like ayahuasca. It's that,
yes.
Yeah, they're like, I can't do 4 hours a day meditation, so it doesn't work. So give me a pill, give me a
tea.
The tea.
Give me a mushroom. Give me something. Yes.
Yeah, something simple. But the problem that comes with that is that you don't develop any of the discipline, you don't develop the character, and you don't have the tools that you need to be able to do anything with it. You're really just watching a very fancy movie that makes you feel good, that you can brag to all your friends about, that you got to see it first. Mm-hmm. but it's not genuine. You're not getting genuine change, which is why we should be meditating in the first place. So in meditation, why should we meditate? So we can make better class decisions.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to make decisions out of a screaming toddler's mind, then you're not going to be making good ones.
Yeah,
So
I think this is really clear. I say this a lot to my clients. When you're in an overwhelmed state, that is not the time to be answering emails, text messages, or questions. It's really not. And it's definitely not the time to be asking to answering your own question of what do I do now? The only
yeah,
thing when you're in overwhelm to do at that moment is feel the feelings. When you're ready, regulate. So what we mean by regulate, when you self-regulate, it means to calm yourself down and get you into a better state. Easier said than done when you're the toddler in your own head. So
yeah,
that's when you just focus on something to distract you. As in, what I do is I just think of a flamingo. It's the one basic thing. It's never anything different. It's just a flamingo, and it makes me happy. And then I get super present and I take deep breaths. And then I'm already in a better state and I'm not the screaming toddler or the overwhelmed person anymore. That's the better space to get the answer for a question from. Don't try and find the answer to a question when you're still in the same state as the question.
absolutely. Yeah. It's an interesting thing about like when you study because of the martial practice I've done, when you study military tactics, you study strategy, any of that stuff, that people think war is about death. It's about killing the enemy. It's not about killing the enemy. It's about forcing error. If you can make the enemy panic, you win. And so everything in war is built to make the other person panic.
Mm.
And that's because when you panic, you can't make good choices and you run
That's
around
true.
screaming and you lose all your power.
Yeah,
So
75% of our brain shuts down.
exactly right. So if we're trying to do anything out of a panic state, we're already losing the war before it even starts.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing how many times people will rush in to make a decision. I know we've done it ourselves many, many
Oh.
times, but we just because that's a pain body response. It's like I have to do it now because
Mm.
otherwise I drop into my shame. And it's like, well, no, if I actually just stop for a sec, stop, got still, then moved, far more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
far more efficient in the process. So meditation should be part of your must do's. If you don't have a practice, a daily practice, then that just makes everything so much harder. But the other thing happened a couple of weeks ago. Um, we were digging down. We came back from the last retreat we did, and it had brought up. It's a funny thing about retreats. It's like because you've got to hold such a high frequency for such a long time, and that is a vibration. You literally shake all the crap out. So
So
everything that's
true,
not
isn't
in
it?
harmony
Yeah.
comes to the surface, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're hard. Like you come back from a retreat, it's just like, oh, next week you're wrecked. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it's quite funny how that works. But as part of it, one of the things that came up was like it brought up this old issue for me. And when I got into it, what I did was I used a very deliberate process. Um, because I want to get rid of it. It had to do with a childhood trauma where I'd fallen down a set of stairs when I was a kid. And what I didn't realize is that that was still active, that was still running. And the thing that happened was when I identified it and I did the processes and cleared it out, that I lost 6 kilos the next 2 days for no apparent reason. Right? No
Yeah.
change in diet or exercise. It's just all the cortisol. The cortisol
Yeah.
stopped being pumped through my body at a rapid pace. And then suddenly it was like, oh, everything just calmed down. So yeah, it was crazy. But what I did is I did a threefold process. So the first one I want to talk about because I learned this from you because you built this.
I want to go back a second.
Yeah.
And I want you to talk about, I don't know if you're going to or not, but it wasn't about you falling down the stairs. That's the traumatic part.
That's a very short part, the version
Yeah,
of it.
yeah. You are going to
Yeah.
explain the whole, are you going to explain the story?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah, good. I think you should because people go, oh, well, trauma means I've fallen down the stairs. Falling down the stairs is not traumatic to a kid.
No, no.
It's,
What
yeah.
yeah.
What was the emotions that were occurring around your family was what was
Yeah, yeah.
traumatic for that. You were 6, weren't you?
Oh no, I was younger than that. That's probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what happened was, or where it led to it was, I had a trauma response because somebody said something nice about me when I was standing in the front of the room
Oh,
and
at the retreat.
at the retreat.
Yes.
Yeah. And
So
I
like
went
a
into
couple
a
of weeks ago, someone I said something really nice to you. You went a trauma response. You went to freeze.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it just stayed on
Yeah.
for like a day and a half. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a horrendous cramp in my leg.
Oh.
And I realized I had that cramp about 3 months earlier, exactly the same spot. Because it wasn't like I had a cramp in my calf. It had seized the bottom three toes, like little toe up,
Oh.
all the way up into my hip and trunk, right on the outside of the leg. So it was just like massive, massive cramp. And the second I hit it, it was just like, I know what this is.
Oh, good on you.
So I was up at 3 in the morning walking around, but what came out of that was when I came back and looked at it, it was like, okay, where did this come to? And what happened was when I was about three, my family, we live in a small country town, and we went to a dance, and my family were off doing something, and I was running around with a group of kids. And what I didn't realize, because I used to get very heavily bullied when I was young, I had my ears were deformed, and they were rebuilt through plastic surgery when I was 10.
Oh,
But up until
wow.
that point, I had uh, my ears were very big and flat. They were deformed flat because I was born premature. And apparently, what happened was one of the nurses there looked at my ears. It was sort of all, they weren't formed yet. So they were sitting on the side of my head, and she thought, well, that doesn't look good. So she took a finger and thumb and took that soft cartilage that hadn't formed yet, and she shaped them into ears. So by pulling them out, what happened was every time I turned my head, I laid them flat forward and laid on them.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so by the time I was bigger, I had these big ears, but they weren't like ears, they were flat. So they're like
Yeah.
elephant ears.
Okay.
So what happened was, particularly in those days, like Walt Disney's Dumbo had come out a few years earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so everyone used to call me Dumbo. But the problem with that, apart from the immediate problem, is that culturally, to older people, to adults, Dumbo was a term for somebody who had intellectual disability,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So everybody thought that I had intellectual disability. So I was treated like that because I was treated like that. It's the 70s, right? Because people talk about the 70s now, youngins, they'll talk about how cool the 70s was because they hear music and see bell bottoms. Like, oh, fuck off. Right? The 70s was awful if you didn't fall into a very tight social um, demographic.
Yep.
So, and I didn't. So, yeah, so I was heavily bullied. So, anyway, I didn't realize, but I got set up by this group of kids. So, I got beaten up by a heap of kids. And
And how
I
old were you?
was about three or four.
Oh.
So, I went inside crying, and my parents were up on the stage and they were playing with the band for whatever reason. It's never become clear.
I'm like, are they musical? I've never heard you say they were musical.
Yeah. Oh, well, my dad used to play double bass and violin,
Oh,
you
wow.
know. So so they were there. So anyway, I came in crying and I started to climb up the stairs of the stage, and my mum turned around and told me to go back. And so I tried to go back, but I slipped and then I bounced down the stairs. And it was about 8 stairs. It wasn't like 2 stairs. It was a good fall. And then I was even more hurt. And then when I turned around to try and get another hug, my mum was just really angry with me. So I
Yeah,
had
so there's the trauma because the
there's the trauma.
emotion. There's the
Yeah.
trauma. Yeah, people think, oh, falling down the stairs, that's a trauma. That's not the trauma.
No, no,
It's
the
bounce off
abandonment.
stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's are they getting their needs met from their parents or their immediate carer?
Yeah, that's right.
Are they getting their needs met? And when you're that age and you're looking for a cuddle and you're not getting it, in fact, you're getting told off for asking for it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That's
the
right.
trauma.
Yeah,
You're in
that's
you're
right.
in trouble for even asking for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's
And
so
there was
sad.
no, it happens. There's
Yeah,
just a social dynamic that was going on that I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
understand. They didn't
yeah.
understand. And my mum was probably about 23 at the time, right?
Wow. Yeah.
23 or 24. So, you know, it's what does anybody know at that age?
Mm,
So it's
mhm.
so anyway, so that came up and it was like, oh, well, something's got to be done about it. So what I did was, first of all, had to get it out of the subconscious. had to know our subconscious. So what I use timeline reset, which I
Hmm.
learned from you, Emma, which is
Thank you.
incredible, simple. So I'm going to hand across to you. I want you to talk a bit about timeline reset.
Timeline Reset is an incredible process that I created in 2017, I think. I was about 2 years into my business, and I'm sure a lot of you heard of NLP timeline therapy. So, timeline therapy is a timeline, and the therapist will say to you, when was the first time you felt, say, anger? And you might go to, right, we're going to go back on your timeline just before you were angry, looking at now, where what's the lesson? We're going to get rid of it. And then we come back to now, what's changed. And I wasn't a great fan of it. And it works with most, but it doesn't work with a lot of people who have severe PTSD or really big trauma, because it's regression work. And people with very low self-esteem and people who are, those people who go, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Those people, and there's more of them than you think. They're the
Yeah,
people whose parents answered every question for them as a child,
yeah,
because no matter what they wanted, it was a no, and they would get into trouble for even asking. So they are, I don't know, people too scared to have the answer in case it's not right. It's your people pleasers. So there was a big demographic where timeline therapy was really probably the worst choice for them because it's regression work. So if I said to somebody, when was the first time you felt fear? They would look at me, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What happened was I had a client on my table that had flown in from Sydney. I'm not going to tell the full story because it's 18
no,
plus.
no,
It's a very horrific trauma story. She had an adverse reaction when I took her to timeline therapy. And 2000, yeah, it was 2017. Actually, I think it was 2016. And she was on my table and she went straight back to the day that she was born. And she was born into a really bad family, a horrendous family in Hong Kong. And by me putting her into that therapy, took her back to a time and place of her mind that she had deliberately forgotten.
yeah,
And now she can't unsee it. And I didn't know what to do with this client. I was my first real year in, and I was not trained how to do adverse reactions. I was not trained how to handle them, and I didn't know what to do. And so what she did she'd thrown up in herself, she defecated, she wet herself, she went into full blown trauma response and went straight back to being a newborn baby. She fell
mm,
off my massage table, and she was fully clothed and she was on the floor with me. I'm cradling her. I didn't know whether to call an ambulance or what. Anyway, what I did was I threw my head up and I looked up at God and I said, you better start talking through me now. And it was an absolute command. And all of a sudden, I just started talking. And it was the most simplest way to change something in the unconscious mind.
mm,
The first one is permission.
yeah,
And it was, do we have permission to release this program from your unconscious mind now? And she's gone, yes. And then I asked another series of questions, and it just formed into what I call timeline reset instead of timeline therapy. Let's not do therapy on your timeline. Let's just reset the freaking thing.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
um, and it's developed from there. Now I've got like 400 practitioners worldwide. I'm actually wanting 1 million practitioners worldwide, because there must be 1 million practitioners out there that are looking for this one process that they can take every single client through, that they can add to their repertoire and know with 100% confidence of this, how this works, why this works. And
yeah,
there's science to it.
yeah,
So our brains are programmed. We have we create programs as little kids from perinatal into up to about 7, because we come out of the womb, go, yay, it's me. And we're kind of mad, bad, and glad, right? We're like angry little fuckers, right? We're shitty if someone's not there on our beck and call, and we're also happy. And then we learn all these other ways. We will learn shame. We learn guilt. We're not born with shame and guilt. We learn it. We learn all these trauma responses. We learn everything. And we're like sponges because our prime thing is connection. Because if I don't have connection, I'm not safe. So we create all these programs to make sure that we are connected. So we lose majority of our personality. We think we develop our personality. We develop the personality that makes us connected to our parents. We lose our natural personality.
Yeah, yeah.
So we develop a personality that fits in with, can I fit in with this mum, this dad, this brother, this sister, this auntie, this grandmother? That's going to be my personality. And what happens is right up to about the age of 7, that's our emotional personality, and our programming around emotions are set before 7. It's crazy, right? So you think you can be married in your 50s, and if you haven't done an unconscious reprogramming, your program of marriage, if you're not present in it, which most people are not, is already programmed from maybe the age of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So you're running on a 4-year-old program, as in a 4-year-old has programmed that program for you in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 20s, 30s. It's insane to me. So what timeline reset does, it bypasses a critical factor and it relaxes the nervous system. It regulates the nervous system, goes into the unconscious mind where that program is, asks for permission to change it, and it resets it. And it's that easy. It's really easy because that program it will not change if it doesn't find something safer to hold on to.
Yeah.
And it goes, well, it's working. You're alive, aren't you?
Yeah.
So the unconscious mind just wants you to be alive. It just I can handle alive, because thriving, that excitement is the same excitement as nervousness in the body, and it can't decipher which one's which. So it just says, I'm just going to keep you average.
Can you just back that one up a little bit, because that's a massive point. I don't think people grasp that the difference in the body between excitement and
And
like
anxiousness
anxiety,
is breath.
is breath. Yeah,
It's one breath. So if I'm excited, if you can listen to this, I go, oh my God, I'm so excited. If I'm anxious, oh my God, I'm just so anxious. I don't even know what's happening. The only difference there was I took a deep breath with the excitement, and the anxiety, I didn't take any breath, but it actually presents the same hormones, the same feeling, the same everything in the stomach, in the body, in the throat. That like, if I feel excitement, it starts in the bottom of my belly and it rises up. Even my shoulders come up around my ears, and I'm like, oh my God. If you can see the video, you'll see me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And it all happens in my face, and I light up. Same with anxiety. I can feel it in my belly, and then my shoulders come up, and I can even do it with my hands and my face. Like, I'm so freaking nervous right now. I'm so overwhelmed, and it's the same. It presents is exactly the same, except part of the strategy was messed up, and that was a deep breath at the beginning.
Yeah. It's the breath lock.
It's the breath lock.
Yeah.
And when you lock breath, you've just got this energy running, hitting up, down, up, down, up, down in your chakras.
Yeah, exactly.
The chakras block it. But if you breathe, you release it.
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting thing, because you watch it a lot in classical martial practice, because when a person's really centered, their center of gravity is down below their navel. So what they call like the hara or the dantian, and so on. And it's right down that in the pelvis. So when you're completely centered, all of that settles all the energy settles there in the pelvis. So, but the more under stress you become, you move up through the solar plexus. When it gets to the sternum, it gets up to the throat center, you're done.
Yes.
So if it hits the throat center, because that's where you interpret, the soul interprets its own existence through that medium. So when it hits there, the soul's like, I'm completely unsafe. And then everything shuts down.
Mm.
So, which is why as people get more nervous, their voice changes and all manner of things, because it's not just on a physical level, but on an energetic level, they're
Mm.
changing. And it's an interesting thing. You can watch it with physical movement because when you like if you go to lift something, so if I go lift this microphone up, what most people do, you see that when they're lifting weights, they don't breathe
They hold their
because
breath.
they hold their breath, right? And the reason they hold their breath is because they're uncertain. They don't know if they're going to be able to lift it, even though they may have done it hundreds of times. That every time they go to do it, they go, I don't know if I can do this, and then they lock their breath, and then they start lifting, which makes it all really hard. One
Mm.
of the ways that you're trained in classical work is that you start breathing before you move. So if I go to lift it, what I do is I start exhaling. So I'm through, and
Yeah.
then it doesn't change. I don't have the emotional response. So because I don't want to anchor in. Anchoring is where you make a link between something, an external stimulus, and an internal feeling. So I don't want to anchor in that when I touch that weight, anxiety floods my body because now I'm filling myself with stress hormone.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, the adrenaline will give me more strength. But this is why you get people that get burned out at the gym because they've just every time they go to train, instead of that dumping stress, they're increasing their stress hormone levels.
Mm.
So they look cooked. You see them after
Yeah.
a while, they look absolutely cooked because they are.
And
So
that's why it's so easy to
fascinating.
get massive change when you I take a client through timeline reset, or you took yourself through timeline reset. It's
Yeah,
at the very beginning you breathe. And
yeah, that's
all that
right.
client, all that person's doing is breathing. I
Yeah,
I take myself through timeline reset all the time.
yeah,
All the time. And the thing about timeline reset, when you're in the practice of it, it's super easy because what happens is you're coming up, the practitioner is not empowering you, the client's empowering themselves. And I really encourage all practitioners out there to stop creating the solution for your clients.
mm,
Because when we create a solution for our client, you're really telling them that they are unable to find the solution. And I I don't believe we know the solution for our clients because we don't know their background, we don't know their values, we don't know their belief systems, and I'm talking about the hidden ones. So
yeah,
when you can get a client to come up with their own, that's what timeline reset's about. They'll come up with all these answers, and then I at the end of it, you say, that was in you. That they're not my words, they're yours. And they're flawed. They go, oh my God, that was always in me. I went, yes. But the program was, we got that. That's a backup, but this is working because we know that you're alive.
yeah, that's right.
We
Yeah,
know that you're alive. So we don't know if that's going to make you alive or not because we have had no practice in it. We have had no permission to try it out. And during timeline reset, they have a permission. And the
yeah,
unconscious mind goes, oh, this is much easier.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, this is, oh my God, I get this. And it's fantastic. So you can do emotions, you do belief systems. I started out doing really deep PTSD, victims of PTSD. And I say victims of PTSD because that's what they believe they are.
yeah,
So a victim believes that they cannot empower themselves. This is me forever.
yeah.
I challenge that. I challenge that daily in my practice, and I have found there is one client that it hasn't worked with. Just one. And I tell you why. It's because the person who hurt her so badly was her prime carer, was her father.
Okay.
And he was the one who was doing experiments on her. And she was in the system for so long, in and out of psych wards, very heavily medicated. She came to me at 32, and she just simply could not see a life of happiness because it didn't fit into her identity of herself.
That's a really interesting point. I'm just gonna bookmark that for everybody. I'm gonna come
Yeah.
back to that in a minute when we talk about the energetics. But yeah, but that's
I could talk about timeline reset literally forever.
yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, I love this process so much. It is so easy, and people really think that it has to be complicated to get spiritual change, to get unconscious change, to get energetic change, to get identity change. No, it's not complicated. In fact, if it is, I would be looking at something else.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, think about trauma, right? Trauma is not complicated.
No, something shitty happened. You had a big event, a big emotional event to it, and bang, and that's what happened. That's trauma.
Yeah, that is the literal process of
That's it.
changing the state in a permanent way.
Yes.
So all
It's
you're
like,
doing is that
ouch, where's mum or dad? Oh, cross with me because I've fallen over. Trauma.
that's it. Yeah,
That's it. That's
because
all
it's
it is.
yeah, traumatic event is not is people go through traumatic events all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the significance that we give it is
Yes,
what creates trauma as a pattern in the nervous system.
that's right.
That's what writes it in. So yeah, so it needs to be simple. It needs to be simple.
It's when I was really, really involved with PTSD, Army and Navy,
Yeah.
in America and Australia for many years. And it was incredible to me that I could get the same group of 7 men on the same platoon, and only one of them had massive PTSD.
Yeah.
But the rest were okay, but they all saw the same event.
Yeah.
And they were saying it's because of the army. I'm like, it's not because of the army. What happened to you as a childhood that your programming decided that this is how I'm going to cope with it?
Yeah.
Who at home coped with massive things like this by shutting down or getting shaky? And they would say, it'd be someone like my grandmother. It's a learned behavior. Your unconscious mind was looking at people around you going, so when I get really angry, that's what I do.
Mm.
When I have money problems and I look at mum and she's crying and she's throwing her hands out, right, that's what I do. That's how I cope with that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's all learnt behavior. There's no anxiety or depression gene, but there is a behavior identity cord. So in other words, I will copy paste what my mum does.
Yeah. And the other thing about it too is that because it's so complex, so we look at it and we say, but I don't understand because my parents were great, my parents were this, my parents were that. That could be true. But you know what? For a space of like 6 months when you were a little toddler,
Yeah,
she might have had a friend going through a divorce. So she would come over and have afternoon tea and whinge about everything wrong with her relationship.
that's right.
Your brain can't filter that out.
Huh.
And you won't.
And here's a better one. In my house, running all day, because I live with my grandmother, was Days of Our Lives.
Oh, God.
All those all day. And
That's
a
right.
child between 0 and 9 they don't have a critical factor. So they cannot decipher whether that is true or not. So everything is true.
Yeah, that's right.
Everything is true because I was wanting to know where did I get my alcoholism from at 5 p.m. every day? Because no one in my family really drank, nobody.
Yeah.
And it was probably Days of Our Lives
Yeah.
because everybody had a drink.
Yeah, that's it. It's 5 o'clock. It comes on.
5
and it's
o'clock,
like
everybody would have a
everybody's
drink.
have a drink and whinge.
Yeah. And 0 to 9, that's what I grew up with. That was the culture. So whatever you're watching, you got to remember that's your culture.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Yeah.
your religion.
Yeah.
You got to be so careful of what you're letting your kids listen to, watch, read, because it is going in as fact. Even if it's a cartoon, it's fact.
Yeah, that's right.
It's massive,
It
isn't
is.
it?
Yeah, it's huge. But so, okay. So with Timeline Reset, I mean, my experience with it, what was great was that it just nailed it. It just because what happens is when trauma responses are running, they're running in real time in your head.
Yes.
So you're in the event. So what's beautiful about that method was that it's just suddenly it's like you turn the switch off and it was like, oh, okay, now I don't have that screaming at me. Now I can start to think.
Yes.
Because I think that's probably the worst thing about any trauma thing is that you actually can't think. Thinking is a process where you have to logically use your brain and you're caught in the emotional state, which literally switches off the
75% of your
rational.
brain shuts down when you're in overwhelm. 75% of our brain, and we're trying to find a solution. Impossible. You can't.
Oh, exactly right.
Or you'll find the solution, it'll be a bottle of wine.
Yeah, that's right. Which suppresses
Yes.
the emotion.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So what I did afterwards, and I mean, look, if you want to find out more about the method, that's why we gave you Emma's
Yeah,
website
jump
at the
on Emma
beginning.
Romano, emmaromano.com.au. I have practitioners all over the world, but if you want to actually learn it, jump in
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
yeah. It is
amazing.
awesome, simple, contained.
Mm,
Yeah. And what I did is because what I did was is that I just recorded on my phone.
yes.
I recorded the hypnotherapy script
Hmm.
on my phone, and then I sat down and I got relaxed and I pressed play. And then I just listened to it. And
Yep.
that was it. And by the
Yep.
end of it, it was done. Yeah. It took all of about, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes,
Hmm.
even with the other, like doing other exercises and that. Maybe the whole thing was like 10 or 15 minutes. It's just done. I've had that thing running in my background since I was 3,
Yes.
right? So that's like 50 years that program's been running, and now it's not running. And
It's so good.
yeah, and like I said, like it's like, well, what effect does that have on your body? Well, I don't know. I lost 6 kilos for no apparent reason in
Yeah.
2 days,
Yes.
and my weight that went down, it went up a little bit, like about a kilo and a half, and then it went down, and it's just continuously just dropping that excess weight.
Good on
So
you. Well done.
yeah, but that's just I don't need that protection.
It's
So
I
whack
get
out.
that a lot from people who have done timeline reset. They say, I didn't know weight loss was involved. I go, it's cortisol. It's cortisol loss.
Yeah,
It
that's
means,
right.
because when we hold cortisol in our body, when we're in fright and flight, we're holding cortisol in our body, and the cortisol will lock everything. You can literally eat fresh air for 40 days and still put on weight
Yeah,
because the body's like, we have to store it, have to store because we don't know when we're going to have our next meal. So it
yeah,
doesn't matter the amount of exercise you do or calorie deficit you do, you will keep the weight or keep putting it on. But
yeah,
timeline reset, it resets. It resets the entire system. It works the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, and an energetic and in a spiritual sense, like it's at a cellular level and a DNA level. It works with the whole body system.
yeah.
That's what I love about the processes that I create. It works with the whole body system.
Yeah, because you have such a profound understanding about energy dynamics and so forth. So it's all interwoven
Mm.
so simply, right? Which is what I love. Is that it needs
Thank
to be
you.
simple. Yeah,
Yeah, it is simple and I love it. So it can, if guys, if you want to learn, I would love, I just want millions and millions of practitioners to have this under, their left arm and just pull it out every session, especially for the very first few sessions that you do with a client. It really resets the programming, really
yeah,
resets it. And it just changed an identity of somebody. It's incredible. And my youngest client I've ever done it with is three years old.
yeah. That's cool.
And the oldest client was she 93, I think, or 94.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can do it any age, any time. It's amazing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And so, so the second part, because we've got a couple more parts to talk about.
Yeah.
So, so the second thing I did after that is that I built processes around clearing the 5 states because there's one of the things that I'm working with a lot at the moment is the process of initiation and the process of consecration. And that is about how we really dig deep and prepare ourselves for being able to connect with the divine on a daily
Hmm.
basis.
Hmm.
So if we take the model that there's 5 states of being, so we have the spirit, which is a thread of the divine. We have the soul, which is an earthbound aspect of spirit, which is really the higher aspects of our ego are
Hmm.
in the soul. Um, there is a mind that we create to function with. There is a genetic body, which is the combination of DNA, and then we have a pain body, which is all that trauma and condition we're talking about. It actually exists as a parody of consciousness,
Hmm.
and that is the lower aspects of our ego. So when people talk about ego being a bad thing, like you've got to kill
Yeah.
the ego, it's like you can't kill the ego, right? If you kill the ego, what you're saying is that you're just going to sit there looking at the world without any sense of self. Everything is happening to you without you even acknowledging it. So that's a it's like I need to leave the planet. It's like, yeah, but what are you going to do when you leave the planet? You're going to go back and they go, why did you buy? I mean, Matt Kahn says this beautifully. He says it's like before you're born, everyone agrees we're going to the movies. So we all buy tickets and then we all turn up and then one person decides they're going to stand out the front of the cinema. And it's like why? Why did we agree to go to the movies? Right? It's like, oh no, I'm just going to stand out here and watch the cinema. So it's crazy, and it's that's that thinking that permeates spirit-based practices. It's
Mm.
all about if you want to do that, go and be a monk. Go and like not muck around. Don't pretend that you can do that in your daily life. That's bullshit. Go and move into a monastery, let people feed you, let people tell you what to do, and observe life without any real interaction.
Hmm.
That's the way to do it. Right? So does it work? Yeah, yeah, but it's not for everyone. And I think in the world now, it's for less people. I think human consciousness has evolved to a point where it's like, no, it has to be done in daily life. And
Hmm.
that means we've got to deal with the soul issue. We can't keep going through this cycle of rebirth because we're ignorant of the soul's needs. We need to heal the soul.
Yep.
So so what I did is a process where between each of those aspects of self, there's a bridge that allows a smooth transition of information and frequency. So what the process does is it clears the bridge. So the spirit itself is indestructible and incorruptible. Nothing can be done to it. So there's nothing to stick to it. However, there's a bridge, and that bridge can identify and stick all of this stuff on it, which can lower its frequency, which is usually not a big deal until you die. And then when you die, part of that spirit is trapped in the identity and it can't return to source. So what it does is it literally breaks off and then that becomes a soul that's rescued and goes through the cycle of rebirth until it reforms and away it goes. So so when you're clearing stuff, like clearing it out of the psyche is massive. But because I got access to different tools and understanding, I was like, okay, I want to get it out of my energetic body. So I went through and cleared all the energetic agreements in each of those five states around it.
Hmm.
So now it's dead, right?
It's
It's like
gone.
not only did we kill it, what we did was we actually disintegrated every molecule in its body till there's
Yeah.
no trace.
Yeah.
So then it was that. But then what it does is, and then that's like any in energetic work, and you can do that. Like there's a energetic therapist can do that for you because they can hold you still and they can go through and clear all that. So you can have it's a wonderful support if you're doing other hypnotherapies and bits and pieces. You can go in and clear all the energetic agreements. Because if you don't have, there's two things you've got to really nail. So not only do you have to get rid of the program, but you have to make sure that you create infrastructure that supports it. All right. There's a physical way to do it, which we're going to get to, and there's an energetic way to do it. And part of it is, and something I said earlier I was going to come back to. Well, now I'm coming back to it. One of the big problems with a lot of talk therapy is it's based on the idea of trying to get you back to something. So I want to take you back to the point where you felt safe as a child. Well, there's a lot of people there that have no point of reference.
That's
They
right.
they've never experienced safety. They've never experienced love. They've never experienced joy. And somebody is trying to tell them in therapy that they need to do that, otherwise they're broken. So they're reinforcing that sense there's something wrong with me.
Hmm.
And it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. You've just never been there. If I start talking to you about Fiji and I say, oh, I remember in Fiji we did this, and you go, I've never been to Fiji. It doesn't make you wrong. It just means you've never been to Fiji.
That's right.
All right. So you don't have a point of reference. For, for most people, for a lot of people, things like joy, safety, love, that there's no point of reference. So energetically, what we can do is we can get source to be able to bring down a blueprint and put that into the energetic field. And then what that does is that blueprint grows through the soul, it grows through the consciousness. And now it fills in all the dots where love should have been. And now your memory is different. Not that it gives you new memories, but it gives you memory plus. So you can say, I remember this, and yet I'm aware that I was surrounded by grace. And it just takes so much of the pain out of it. So we build the infrastructure. That's why energetic therapies are fantastic, because they can rebuild the infrastructure that is not there.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you leave a vacuum. And if you leave a vacuum, you will just pull in whatever's most in alignment with you. So if you're used to, um, for example, I used to watch this a lot with people that were going to rehab for drug and alcohol abuse, right? And I remember people used to talk about it and used to say about how much they hated the rehab process. Not to crap on rehab, because it does an important job, but there is a fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem is, unless the person is 100% committed to really giving up, what they're doing is they're just going to daycare, and then
Yeah.
they're going to come home and do it. So I remember visiting a guy in rehab, when I was doing other support work, and I remember him talking about it, and he said, "Oh, you wouldn't believe it," because this is when COVID came came out, right? So we had COVID, so suddenly everywhere there was these little stands with sanitizer in them. Okay, and he said, he
Yeah.
said,
Telling
"Oh
me.
God," he said people are loving COVID, and I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, they walk around with their coffee mugs, right? And they just put it under the sanitizer and fill it up with sanitizer. And then they're walking around all day drinking
Oh my
drinking alcohol out
goodness.
of the sanitizer things." Yeah. So it's like, wow, I went to rehab and then they put it on tap at every door. It was great. It
My
didn't cost me anything.
gosh.
And then what they do is they sit around and they talk about it. And not everybody, but there's a lot of people that are there because they're there because of other reasons. Court has sent them there because of all the other problems that's come from their alcohol abuse. So they go there and they talk to other alcoholics about what they're going to do when they get out, and they all work themselves up into a frenzy. And the second they get out of rehab, what do? They go down to the pub and they get hammered,
Yep.
right? They
Yep.
love it. So it's like any little um, bubble, you get that group think happening. So
No,
yeah,
the thing is because there's a program in the unconscious mind saying this is safe and this is normal, this is what keeps us alive.
exactly
But
right.
if you go into the unconscious mind with timeline reset and say, okay, do we have permission to let go of this program for a better one?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Great. Well, and then they come up with a program and it's
that's
in
right.
complete alignment with them. It's not that me telling them anything or saying anything, they're coming up the program.
Yeah,
That's why it's so big and profound and massive. But there is one part of it, which I know you're coming up to
yeah.
when
This
they
is the
go
big
home.
one. That's the big
This is
one.
what when they go home, the program's changed. Everything's changed. They're feeling fabulous, they're feeling amazing. And then what they need to do is for the next 30 days, whatever they've come up with, I record it and write it down. They need to read it, they need to listen to it, they need to become it.
Yeah,
Because we have residual habits. It's like, I don't know, if you've always smoked and I can get someone to stop smoking 15 minutes, right? Probably less than. But they feel like they're missing something in their hands. They need to do something with their hands.
yeah,
It's like if somebody gets a limb cut off, they can still feel their toes itching, but there's no foot
yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's right. It's a habit.
Yeah, it's just a habit. That part is the part where so many people will want to fail. Go, oh no, I didn't do the 30 days. Why not?
Yeah, that's right.
But
Yeah,
you can't read something for 30 days. Why not?
yeah, yeah. You just rebuild it, and that's the thing. Yeah, if you have a vacuum, you'll recreate that vacuum.
That's right.
Yeah. So a lot of people, because that's the thing, is that if you nail the niche,
I'm just going to explain the vacuum to some people. I don't know if a lot of people get it. It took me a long time to understand vacuum. A vacuum is you're sucking the energy out of something. You're sucking that energy away. So there's a space and all spaces need to be filled. So we are 100% full of energy. We're never lacking in energy. It just
yeah,
might be shitty energy that we've got in there, but we're always at 100% capacity. So imagine we're a bottle of water that's always full, but some of it might be clear and some of it might be murky.
yeah,
When we pull out the murky, that has to be filled straight away. So when with timeline reset, it gets filled with more crystal clear water.
yeah,
Um, when we go home, we've got residual habits left over from the old problem, from the old program. if we don't sit there and continue for 30 days, because it takes 30 days for a habit to be created, because as cells, we have 70 trillion cells in our body, and each of those cells hold memory.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's our cells that are also running the habit, not the unconscious mind. It's the cells. So the cells, when they die off and the new cells are created, the new cells are created with the white, yummy water, with the yummy program, not the old shitty one.
Yeah.
And so in 30 days, the new way becomes an unconscious program. So you never have to think about it.
That's right. You get permanent change.
It's permanent change. You're not sitting there going, oh, that's right, I'm awesome. It's just, yeah, I'm awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
that's
it.
right. I've got to remember that I am free and abundant and I feel amazing. I'm happy. Oh, that's right. You don't have to ever think about it. It's just done. It's just a natural program, like walking
Yeah.
or picking your nose or
Yeah. Yeah.
cleaning
Yeah.
your teeth. You don't consciously say, I've got to get the toothbrush out, put it in my right hand or my left hand, put the thing. You just automatically do it.
Yeah.
It becomes automatic after 30 days.
Yeah. Gotta do the work, the habit
Yes.
building
And
work.
no one can do that for anybody but the client.
No, that's exactly right. And
Nobody
and it's really important to understand that this is like somewhere you've never been before.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people get caught up on it because they're like, oh, I tried doing it, but it didn't work. It's like, of course it didn't work.
Because you
You've never
tried.
been there before.
Yeah. And you tried.
Yeah. So
But
you have,
trying means you haven't.
well, all beginners suck. If you've
But you know
never,
that, don't you? You know the word try, the unconscious mind
oh
can't
yeah,
process the word try.
yeah,
It's like
that's
try to pick up a pen. If you try to pick up a pen and you pick it up, go, no, I didn't say pick it up. I said try to pick it up. You can't try.
yeah,
It's like maybe pick up the pen. Well, I'm not doing it.
yeah,
Hope to pick up the pen. I'm still not doing it. That's right. So hope, try, maybe are all no words. I'm not
yeah,
doing
yeah.
it.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. The unconscious mind will cancel anything out. If I say to you, I'm going to try to go to the gym tomorrow, my unconscious mind has already canceled out. I'm going to the gym tomorrow. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't understand
Doesn't get
how
it.
to make
Doesn't
it
it
real.
just like I don't know what that is, and
Yeah,
we'll cancel it
exactly.
out. So if you guys are bosses out there and you've got employees or kids going, yeah, I'm going to try and do that, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Simple as that.
They're telling you they can't join the dots.
No.
So yeah, but get rid of the idea of fake it till you make it. Get rid of that idea. When you
Just
start
do it.
doing something, you're
Yeah.
doing it. But you suck. If I picked up a guitar, I don't know how to play musical instruments. So if I picked up a guitar, it would be unrealistic to think that I can pick that thing up and in 30 seconds figure it out and start playing it.
Mhm.
So that's an unrealistic expectation. And fake it till you make it is built around unrealistic expectations. Right? It's like look at it and go, okay, I don't know how to play guitar, but I'm going to learn guitar. Well, of course, I have to learn at the beginning. So if you're building a business, it's like when people say, I'm going to build a $1 million business. Awesome. What'd you take last week? $100. Okay. And then they're like, oh, it's failing. It's not failing. You're not going to make $1 million. You're not going to make $1 million today. So you haven't built any of the infrastructure. You're at the $100 phase.
Yeah.
Get your $100 phase to become a $500 phase, and then make it 1,000, and then so on and so on. And next thing you know, you're going to be all you got to do is get up around 19 grand, and the next thing you know, you got $1 million business,
Mm.
right? So it's just step at a time. And those steps, if we own them and we just go, yep, this is what I'm doing. And that 30 days is important because it's not about, I want a change. I want permanent change.
That's right.
I
I
don't
want
ever want to come
unconscious
back.
permanent change.
Yeah,
I
I
want
don't
the
ever want to come
change.
back.
So when I become overwhelmed, that's the program running.
Yeah, that's right.
This is the unconscious program. The unconscious programs run when you're not consciously aware. And we're only consciously aware, they reckon, of up to 5% of our day. Most
Yeah.
of what we do is unconscious.
Yeah, incredible, isn't it?
So my unconscious program, I want it running at an optimum level.
Yeah.
So when they're running at an optimum level, that's when you sit there and go, I see there's a glass ceiling and belief, there's an upper limit there. I got it right. Now you just take yourself or get somebody to take you through timeline reset.
Yeah. And that's it. So it's for everyone. I suppose the big takeaways is that if you want permanent change, you got to get in there and you got to do the work. The work's not hard. You just got to find you just got to find somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yes.
And most importantly, you've got to commit from the very beginning that when that work's done, you're now going to make that permanent by changing the habit. If you do that, if you change that habit, even if you don't have access to anything, you do, but let's say you didn't, and all you had was the ability to change a habit. If you change a habit, you're still going to make massive change, massive shift, right? It's just going to be so much harder and take so much longer. But nailing that, if you nail the subconscious, you nail the energetics, and then you nail the habits, so everything changes.
It's
Beautiful
massive.
work.
It's a huge process. It just works.
Yeah, beautiful work.
Thanks, Jason. Jason, is there anything else you'd like to chat about before we sign off on this amazing podcast today?
No, that's us.
That's
We're
us.
good.
Thanks,
Hope-
everybody. We hope we have inspired you. We know we've inspired you. We know you might have made you laugh and have a think about things. And that's what we want to do. That's what we're here to do.
Awesome.
Get
Thank you, Emma.
curiouser and curiouser and curiouser. All right. Bye, everybody. See
Thanks,
ya.
everyone. Bye.